Good day! Today we're going to go through the particle effect floral thing that I did for my dream sequence entry, as you can see here. And we're going to start with a curve. We kind of need that arc to follow the sword path. So we're going to add a curve, and we're just going to shape it to the arc of that sword swing as much as we can. Just fast forwarding through my attempts at doing that. And from there, we're going to start extruding it so that we can get the actual particle emitter as a surface. So here we have the extrusion, and Control T will actually rotate the curve points across the curve, including the extruded part of it. And we don't really need to worry about the exact shape of it. We can kind of just convert it to a mesh right after, so that's what we're going to do here, and we can actually just shape it manually because it's not moving, the animation's already locked in. So what I end up doing here is just kind of pushing and pulling the vertices and the plane surface to kind of match that arc a little better, because it's not perfect coming straight out of the curve. Here I'm going to combine the vertices with M and combine them at the center, so I can just get a little less geometry. It's easier to work with. And from here we could actually, just minor touch-ups there. Here we can actually add a particle system, and that is going to turn this into our emission. So we're changing the frame start and frame end because the entire length of the media isn't that long. Here's what that looks like, pretty bare bones. I ended up using the Botanique add-on. I took a flower from one of the sakura trees, and I used that as my particle object to actually emit. But you can use whatever you want to emit. You are going to want to change the origin point of whatever you're emitting to the center of the emission object. So in this case, the flower needs to have the origin point right at the center. Otherwise, it's going to spawn in a weird place. And that's fixed up now. Here I'm just playing with the scale of the emission object. And if you're using a collection with multiple objects, you're going to want to click Pick Random, and that's going to let it automatically pick between the different objects. I'm going to change the number to something a little higher, like 10,000 here. I think I ended up going with 7,000, but you pick whatever looks good for you. The entire scene is 40 frames long, so just going to change the lifetime to 40. Now we're going to toggle on rotation and play with some of these velocity and angular velocity settings to get a little more variation in how the particles act. I'm going to change gravity and the field weights to 0.15 because we'll control all the movement with our own forces, so we don't need gravity being the dominant factor there. I lowered the particle count to see what I'm doing better, toggled on dynamic under rotation. I kind of like the look of that a little more. And now we could start adding our own forces. So first we're going to start with a wind force, and I wanted to get the particles moving just to the right, so we'll angle it that way. Not going to change any other settings on that. We're going to add a drag, and this basically makes it so that the particles can start fast and then they slow down drastically. You could put that force anywhere, it doesn't really matter. Here's what that looks like. You can see the particles kind of start a little faster and then they slow down right away. At this point I'm just re-angling the wind to kind of match my reference a little better. And now I'm going to add a regular force because we want the particles to kind of be pushed outward from the center of the spawner. For all these, you can see I'm just keeping the standard settings for the forces, and the particles are being pushed outward now. Next, I'm going to add a vortex, and the interesting thing about this is you can get a little swirly motion that matches the arc of the sword. However, the force defaults to a positive amount, so the swirling is actually in the wrong direction. So I'm going to want to kind of invert that, and you can easily do that by going to the force settings and just changing it to a negative. So right now it's at 1, so I'll just put -1 there. And you'll see now that it kind of follows the correct path of the sword swing. Now it's all about adding turbulence forces to taste, and you can really just play with this however you like, but we're going for this specific look today, so we're going to start by changing the force to about 50 just to see what that looks like. It's a bit crazy, so we're going to bring it back down to 1 just to test some other settings. Bring the flow to maybe 10, and now we've kind of lost all of our momentum, so maybe pump that strength back up just to see what looks good. Gonna go to about 15. in that range. You can get these wavy movements as you see here. No, yeah, let's go with like 25. It's kind of pushing and pulling to see what looks good to you. We're gonna add another turbulence to get a little more of a dynamic movement, so it's not all just the one force there. I'm gonna change this to 0.2 strength, 0.1 size, and 4.4 flow. And honestly, these settings are all arbitrary. You could put whatever you want. Back to the force additions. Now we're just going to change the strength to 10, size to 0.05, and the flow to about 0.5. Just hiding the emitter so you can see what you're doing here. And we're going to make the emission start a little closer to the start of the sword swing. And lastly, we're going to add one final turbulence force to tie everything together and really extract those micro details out of the flowy motion of the pedals. We're going to change the strength to about 45, flow to about 10, and the size can be at 0.35. And that's pretty much the right look that we're going for. There is one more step. We're going to want to make these pedals spawn in at the same rate as the sword goes past them, so they don't just all appear at once. And we're going to do that using a Boolean modifier. We're going to bring in a giant cube and set that to wire so we can kind of see what we're doing. We'll add a modifier, set that to Boolean, and use the cube as the actual Boolean object. And we're going to rename it Boolean for pedals. From here, you can kind of see what the Boolean's actually doing. It's basically hiding the emitter, but it's not doing it the right way. We need to change the order of the modifiers so that the Boolean modifier is on top of the stack, and we'll toggle on Use Modifier Stack, which can be found in the particle settings. And that is that. We're going to bake everything together, and that is the setup. Here's what it finally looks like. I did end up, again, changing the particle count to about 7,000 in the end. This is a little lower here. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the comments. And if you have any criticisms on how this tutorial was, please let me know. I'm always trying to improve them. And take care for now. See you next time.